Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Sally.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sophia.
And today I thought it'd be a really fun time because we talked about convenience stores previously. So we kind of have that base knowledge of the T-money concept where you tap and pay. So I thought it'd be a really fun idea to kind of talk about the different transit systems we've been on and how they compare to Korea and all the other countries we've ridden the transit systems on.
Yeah, in Korea, even though the country itself is tiny, the subway system there is pretty crazy.
It's very well integrated, the buses and the metro system, and also the buses that run through the highway as well.
It's very integrated well and but then it's very complex and probably a bit scary for people who've never been to Korea before and they just face the map the first time they see it, I feel.
The one thing I do like about the Korean subway map system is that all the lines except like one new line in the metro, like all the other lines are numerically labeled. So
Yeah,
it's
they
not
are.
the subway lines aren't this blah 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 line. You don't say take blah blah blah. You can say take line number 2 or line number 3 and they'll know exactly which line you're talking about. And so I think that's a bit more convenient for foreign people when they take the metro because it's just easier to find the lines of the subway.
Yeah, and a lot of the places they're called transit stops where you can transfer from one line to another line to get to a certain destination. So you don't have to go around in circles to get to your destination. If one line intersects with the other, you can just transfer in between and transferring is really easy as well.
Yeah, because when you are riding the subway and you either stop, at a non-transferable station or a transferable station, the ringtones that they kind of play before the door opens are different. So,
Yeah.
sound-wise, you can tell the difference if you can transfer to a different line or not. And they also announce all of that in Korean and English, and they
And
have
Japanese.
words written, and they have it on the screen with Japanese and Chinese as well. So it's very integrated for, I guess, a lot of foreign tourism that comes from, China and Japan, because I think that's the highest source of tourism for Korea.
So it looks like in Korea, in near Seoul and the vicinity, in total there's 15 lines just in central central Seoul and
Yeah, and that's not
vicinity area.
excluding everywhere else.
No, so this one it only connects within Seoul and the few cities that are around Seoul, and we have our own line, just for the airport line, where it
Yeah.
takes you to our domestic airport and our international airport. The last stop is the
Yeah.
international airport.
Yeah. So you can when you get into the airport and if your ticket number is a certain, number, they'll tell you have to take the subway or the in-airport metro to go to the separate section of the airport cuz it's just further away.
Yeah. Yeah, and then so for the Korean subway line, I really feel if you're a first time tourist that comes in, you should really get a copy of the map, even though in every station there's literally a copy of the line everywhere you go. And you have to be careful. One thing about in Korea is that how many number of exits there are per subway station.
Oh, yeah. No, but that's actually really useful. So the only experience I have is if you get off at the subway stop in Korea at Gangnam, there is 12 exits, right?
Yeah.
But you can find where each of the exits leads to on the map because they have a map
Yeah.
at each of the exits. But that's the thing. So where I live now, when I first came here, my friend also lived here. She would say, "Oh, I'll meet you at this station." I was like, "Okay, well, which exit number?" And she's like, "There's no exit number. Just stay inside and I'll find you." And I was like, "What the
That
heck?"
is a very inconvenient way to meet someone.
Yeah. So that's the thing. And so I would get to the metro station and I don't know where I am. My phone, I don't have a phone because my phone, I don't have a phone
Yeah.
plan yet because I have to make a bank account to make a phone plan. So I was like, I'm so confused. And she came to find me. She's Korean. And she's like, I know it's completely different. I'm used to telling you, let's meet at exit number 11 or exit number 10 or whatever. And you just meet right in front of the stairs. But there's literally no indicator of any of the exits. And you just gotta figure it out yourself, which
Yeah.
exit is which. They don't even have a map saying where each of the exits lead to. Like, the transit system here is trash.
Yeah. The thing is, in Korea, it's only quite recent that they've gotten names for streets. So
Mm-hmm.
before, when you looked up a certain place you had to go, the directions would be to get off at this spot, come out of this exit number, find this building, and it's on that floor. So
Yeah.
Korea isn't used to street names yet. If you look up addresses, they're not really in street names. It's more convenient as well to go by certain exit number and go like left or right, just because there's so many number of exits and it's really convenient for you to follow that way, which is probably why they hadn't
Yeah.
implemented any street names.
And also a lot of like very crowded areas like Gangnam, if you exit the street, you're not directly entering a big street. You might be going to lots of alleyways where they don't have a lot of street names for. So a lot of places, if you like go to a restaurant or something, like you want to go to a cute cafe, they'll have picture diagrams of how to get there because it's more difficult to explain with the roads
Yeah.
instead of like just take a left and then a right when you see this building or something.
Yeah. You have to be pretty like road savvy, I guess. You have to have some
Yeah.
kind of common sense on where to go when you get out somewhere and
Yeah.
not be kind of phased by you're in an unknown place. But then
Yeah.
I feel Korean train system is difficult because it's so intricate and complex by the number of stations. But
Mhm.
buying tickets and everything is so well planned out that you don't really have to worry about all that.
Yeah, I think it's complex because there's so many lines, but it compensates for the easy use of it. You can
Yeah.
easily buy tickets. And a lot of the train, like the subway stations now, inside the actual stations, they'll have like convenience stores, they'll have like cafes, and some will even have like little like food courts and stuff. So it's actually really
And
intricate. I can't speak today. But it's very complex. Um, but yeah, because there is one station in the Korean metro that actually leads to amusement park.
yes,
And getting to that amusement park, you get off at a certain station and you just like keep walking.
walking straight.
But the whole way there, you get there, there's like restaurants, there's cafes, there's clothing stores, like there's literally everything.
Yeah.
And one thing that I love about Korean subway is they have Wi-Fi.
Yes, even inside the subway.
Yeah, okay. So I didn't know this, but you can't just access the Wi-Fi like people think you can. So when you go to Korea, you can get like a SIM card that you can charge, right? So it can be with any brand, and you can get like a travel, just like a charged phone. They can have charged minutes and texts and stuff like that. And when you activate it, they'll ask you, do you want your ID to be activated to use the Wi-Fi's on the metro system as well? It's free. And you just say yes. And if you activate that, whenever you go to the metro and you see a Wi-Fi provider that's from your phone company, you can connect to it automatically and use the internet that's in the metro.
Yeah, which is pretty bomb and it's so convenient. But now even at the airport, you can rent pocket Wi-Fis. So they're like
Mm-hmm.
portable routers that you can bring around with you in Korea. So even though you get lost, you're able to still use that router to
Yeah,
access
and sometimes
Wi-Fi.
that's cheaper if you have like a group of people instead
Yeah.
of getting like internet, like LTE on your SIM card. Like you can just get a portable Wi-Fi pocket and kind of just carry that
Yeah,
around.
that one's actually quite cheap, which is why I get it every time I visit Korea. I get a SIM
Yeah,
card, but I still get that because even though I have a SIM card, doesn't mean everyone else I need to visit has a SIM card. So it's better to get the
exactly.
Wi-Fi.
And one other thing that I really, really like is that you might not think this is a big deal, but the metros are air conditioned in the
Oh,
summer.
and they have different like strength of air conditioning. They have
Yeah,
like a lesser wind and like a very strong wind. So it depends on
yeah.
how hot you
So
are.
So I think before they didn't have that, and I think the elderly population were complaining that it was too cold.
Yeah.
In some of the cars, especially if no one's riding it, because more people, more body heat, so it's warmer. So they were complaining that it was cold.
Mm-hmm.
So they actually indicate now on each of the sections on the subway itself. It says like weak air conditioning or strong air conditioning or moderate. So you can actually choose the level of air conditioning that you want.
It says on the door before the door opens. Yeah. So it's really convenient.
So I thought, oh, all metros will have air conditioning, especially if they're a brand new. Like the older models, obviously they might not. So when I came and lived where I'm living, I saw new metro, and I was like, ooh, very cool. So I wrote it, and it was hot AF. Like literally, all you get is recycled tunnel air, which is disgusting, right? And then the air literally just think of it as the one end of the metro's cut off and the other end's cut off, and the wind just travels through it. Like that's literally what it feels. So you just breathe in like musty air, and it's just hot. And if someone farts in the beginning of the line, I bet you can smell it all the way through because it just travels through the metro. Like it was so hot. I had to bring my portable fan.
Yeah.
In the metro because it was so hot.
Yeah.
So I took that for advantage.
Wait, is that metro you're talking about is in Canada or in Korea, the one without the AC?
Canada.
Because you did not specify a country at all in the beginning of your sentence.
Every other place that I've been to on metros, they did not have air conditioning.
I remember when we used to live in China. So first of all, China is different. The transportation, the number of people are different. The number of
that's already on a different scale.
The scale of cars and bicycles on the road is different. Like when you're a human trying to cross the street,
I almost got hit by a car.
When you cross the street on green, you gotta watch out for your life, and when you cross the street on red, you need to watch out for your life.
Yeah, so I didn't know that. So I thought, because I was going to school that day, like first day of school. I'm already depressed that I'm not going to English, school, already told. So I see a green light, and the person, the pedestrian light turns on. I'm like, okay, cool, I can cross the road. Because I thought it was just like Canada, which I learned the hard way that's not. And I'm walking, and literally a car almost hits me, and I look at him, and he points at me like I'm in the wrong, and I was very confused. So you have to risk your life, let alone crossing the road. I probably got traumatized taking a taxi in China because they don't have seatbelts.
No, in China, you don't wear seatbelts when you're in the back seat, though.
And one time we had to ride that taxi without seatbelts on during when all the traffic lights broke.
Yeah.
That was chaotic. Oh my god.
And the Chinese subway, we have a funny memory from the Chinese subway. We were quite young.
It was a unique... I don't have very clear memories
because I was like 12 or 13, probably. 13, 14 maybe.
13, 14.
Yeah, you were probably like 11. So,
10, 11,
first of all, Chinese subways are... I mean, I don't know what they're like now because this was almost like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So, when we first went, we walked into the subway and there was this woman, crying hysterically in the corner of the subway.
I remember her. I just don't remember the metro.
It was inside the subway, and first we were holding on for dear life because we were being flung back and forth in the subway. But then that lady was crying her eyes out, and I was just in my mind, I'm thinking, in my 12-year-old, 13, 14-year-old brain, I'm thinking, okay, either someone died in her family or her boyfriend just broke up with her over phone in the subway, were my two thoughts. Otherwise, no one should be crying this much in a public area, was my thought.
Yeah.
Because,
do you remember why she was crying?
No, because she was howling almost. But then she was on
I remember,
the phone
but I just...
and howling, crying, which is why my initial thoughts were someone just told her someone passed away, or her boyfriend is breaking up with her as we see her on the subway. Yeah. So that was my first experience and a very traumatic experience of the Chinese subway. And then To be fair, in China, like taxi's cheap, so we didn't take the
It's more
subway
convenient
much.
to take a taxi, yeah.
It's
But
life
that's the
threatening,
thing.
I feel, but it's still
But everything's life threatening
yeah,
there.
that's true.
Um, but the thing is, so I was so used to, because until we were old enough, we never really took public transit when we were living in Canada, right? So when
No.
we never really took it. Like we would take like the bus time to time, but we didn't really take the public transit. So
Yeah.
once we would take a lot of public transit in Korea.
Mm.
So my base knowledge of public transit is Korean transit,
Yeah.
right? So when I had to like take the subway to get to the airport in New York, like
Oh.
I didn't realize how that was. Like all the metros are crap. Like as in quality wise, they're crap. Uh, it's so complex. I couldn't find even the line that I had to get onto to get to the airport. If you ask someone, they're all in a like pissed off mood that no one's gonna help you. All the time I had to get to carry checked bags down. I had to go down the stairs. No one told me. No one would offer to help because they're busy on their phones doing stocks or whatever.
I feel
And like the thing that pissed me off the most about the New York Metro system is you try to buy the ticket and they have discounts for different times of day and they don't know how that works.
yeah.
So I would ask someone, I'm like, I'm trying to get here. I don't know which ticket to buy. I'm speaking English. And they're like, just buy it at the machine. I'm like, don't you think I've tried? I looked on it. There's so many lines. There's so many different types of tickets. Like, what if I buy a ticket and I can't use it and I would just waste my money? Like, it's so frustrating. I can't ever take the metro in New York ever again. I will never in my whole
Yeah.
life.
I
It's
feel
so
like
bad.
the city itself, because everyone's like in a hurry and it's very fast paced. Like Korea as well. I feel people are
But
very
that's the thing. In Japan too, they're always fast paced, but everything is so organized fast paced. Here, people are just mean fast paced.
I
You know
guess
what I mean?
so. But if you
Like the
think
people who
about
are the
it,
most overworked are in Japan. Like they are also very organized. I don't understand.
but then if you think about it, like how people are quite impatient there, but Korean people are probably one of the most impatient people I know in my
I'm
life.
very impatient. Yes.
Yeah. Like when I live in Korea and I open like the internet browser, if it doesn't load in like a second, I'll close it and I'll open it again because it took
But
too
it's because
long.
you have high expectations because Korean Wi-Fi is fast. Here, my Wi-Fi is slow, so I don't have high expectations that it'll open right
Yeah,
away.
that's true.
Because today, when I turned on my computer and my browser had to load, it took like 10 seconds. But that's because I have low expectations here.
But if you even visit Korea for a little bit and then you go back to like Canada and stuff,
you can't go back.
You can't like get used to that Wi-Fi.
No. And like all the other places I've been to, like I think the metro in like France, they're tiny. Okay, so people in Europe are taller in general than people in Asia. So why is it so freaking small?
And you know
like they have to hunch inside the freaking metro.
And you know the handles are manual. You gotta manually open the handles inside the metro.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. And I almost got stuck because they didn't open the door.
Yeah. So like you have to manually open it, and the door opens instead of it opening. So when I first went to Paris, all of us were just standing there like, oh, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? Like that.
Yeah. And that's the thing. The one thing that's also I feel like it's in common with a lot of places in Europe is the price differs from the tickets per which zone you're in.
Zone is important.
So zone is kind of measured by how far you are away from the central point, and all the lines kind of combined. So they have rings. Maybe it's like a couple kilometers out from the center, and then the next ring, and then the third ring or whatever. So the further you go, the more you have to pay for your ticket. And in Korea, you don't have that.
You don't have to measure because when you tap your card at one station, you get out and you tap your card. When you exit it, they'll calculate the distance and they'll deduct it for you.
Yeah, and like you don't get penalized for like transferring lines or anything in like Korea, I think.
No, the more you take public transport in Korea, the more discounts you get as you're transiting.
Yeah. So if you take like the metro and then you get off and take the bus, if you tap it within like a certain amount of time, it's like free or it's like 10 cents or something.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, like I didn't know that in Paris when I went, because we had to go to this, Castle de Versailles. That's like far, far, far away.
That's end of zone 4, I think.
Exactly. And that's very far. That's the only place we had to take the metro to, and not including the airport. But that metro was small AF.
Yeah, like in Paris, most places are walkable. Like if you can see the Eiffel Tower, then you can probably get to the Louvre and you can probably get to the Champs-Élysées and then the Arc de Triomphe. You could probably walk all of those places.
That's because when I went there, our hotel was literally a 3-minute walk from the Louvre Museum.
Yeah.
So I was literally almost mid-center Paris, so I was able to walk everywhere.
Yeah.
It's just that one castle I had to take the metro for because it was very far.
Yeah, the only time I took the metro in Paris was to get from, because I took the train from Swiss. So from the train station to kind of our Airbnb, and then from our Airbnb to go to the Versailles, and also to go to the duty-free, like, store. Like, that's the only time we took subway, and the rest of the time we walked.
Yeah, so like my conclusion from all my experiences is so far everywhere else has been crap. And I still think Korean metro so far is the best. I haven't taken transit in Japan. I know I've heard it's good, but I can't speak on my behalf because I've never taken public transit there.
From what my friends tell me, transit, because each subway line is owned by a different company, transiting between lines is quite difficult. So you have to really see your final destination to see which line you can take the whole way, is what most of my friends
without
say.
Like changing lines.
Yeah, because it's complicated and it's expensive, I think.
Yeah, that's why I feel like from my experience, the Korean transit system has been the best. Also, some buses, if you're lucky, they'll have a little TV that will play videos and stuff, so your commute isn't as boring.
But also, to be honest, I quite like transportation in Canada as well, because everything's just quite spacious and big, and especially
but it's expensive.
The SkyTrain, because it's not underground, it's on top. I feel like there's more to
I have a bad experience with the SkyTrain.
Oh my God.
Maybe I'll talk about it later. I got stuck on the SkyTrain. It was very fun.
We're not putting down any countries whatsoever. This is just purely our experience of what happened 10 years
New York is crap. I can say that positively. New York is crap.
Sally
but
said
everywhere else has been decent.
Okay.
But if I wanted to shorten my SkyTrain story, basically, I didn't realize the SkyTrain I wrote didn't go all the way to the end of the line. So it stopped just in the middle of an overpass, and I had to call the conductor asking why the train stopped and why I'm the only one on the train. And then he was like, oh, you forgot to get off on the last stop. We're going to go back in a couple of minutes. And then when I came back, an officer escorted me home because she thought I couldn't make it home. That's literally what happened. And I missed my stop because I was playing Candy Crush on my phone. So, solution, don't play Candy Crush if you don't know where you're going.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah.
Okay, so yeah, the whole point of this episode was don't play Candy Crush on the subway because you will get stuck on an overpass.
And don't take transit metros on New York because it sucks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fine. Well, people, that was an interesting episode.
I didn't know I would have this much to say about a freaking transit system.
Oh my God. And we didn't really get into a transit system. We only talked about the subway.
Yeah, I didn't even talk about the highway buses and stuff.
No, none of them. We didn't even talk about the rest stops on highways.
Oh, okay. That can be a different
episode.
That's a whole That's already enough to talk about. Yeah.
But we're on the next episode, instead of continuing this lovely transit conversation, we're probably going to talk about...
New York is crap!
We're probably going to talk about something that's quite famous right now in Korea, which is...
very booming. Outside, too.
Yeah. K-pop. We're going to talk about K-pop. Not that we know much about K-pop, to be honest.
No.
I'm probably the most well-known person about K-pop in our entire family.
Yeah, I stopped listening for a while.
And then
K-dramas.
K-dramas.
And just like Korean media, like in general.
Yeah. So we're probably going to cover that in the next episode. But everyone, thanks so much for listening, and hope you enjoyed hearing what these crazy ladies talking about nonsense.
And I hope that 2021 isn't horrible.
Will make
so
us
far.
less crazy, hopefully.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Everyone, please follow us on Instagram at Mixing Podcast. No, that's not our podcast. Mixing Cultures Podcast. And please follow us on Apple Podcast and Spotify. All right? Everyone, okay, before I go crazy, I gotta go. Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.